maybe you remember last week I gave you this by the book explanation about what a startup is. This was said by Steve Blank, but it's a guru of startups. He wrote this very big book that I only know like a couple of persons that has read the whole book. I call it El Libro Gordo de Petete, and it's full of useful information and details and step by step how you can do a lean startup. There was a couple of books, greater than this one. This was wrote before by his student. It was Eric Rice. That was the one that made this lean startup thing famous. And it's interesting. It has a lot of stories, and it's good. It could help you to get around the idea of what lean startup really means, or you can read this one. I heard that it's better read this one or the other than bother and reading both of them. But I heard that this one is even better than this one. I read this one. So what a lean startup really means. What lean startups try to do is to avoid people using their time in building something that nobody wants. That's it. So you get that a lot, especially with developers. We feel like it's better for us to hide in the cave and start coding and do the perfect product we have in our minds. But the thing is that most of the times when we go out and we try to sell our product, nobody wants it. So what lean startup try to do is to avoid that. Lean startup came from a couple of ideas. Toyota in the 50s and between the 50s and the 70s developed a methodology. The idea was to create value but reduce the work you invest on it. So they perfected how they build cars, taking away anything that give value, anything that didn't give value to the final product, to what the final users perceive. It was revolutionary in how things were built. And lean startup takes a lot of ideas from this, but also it takes a lot of ideas from agile. And agile, it has a lot of methodologies like Kanban and Scrum, but it's really more like an ideological approach to software. It was born with software, and after that a lot of people apply agile ideas to other business. But the first people that apply that was software developers. So they meet in the 80s, I think, and they no, not the 80s.
I think
90s.
XP methodology.
I don't remember the exact date. I thought it was the 80s, but maybe it was the 90s.
Maybe I was wrong.
I'm not sure the exact date. Google it, please.
Last century.
Last century? So at the end of the last century, a lot of programmers that were tired about how things were done, they decided to do a manifesto. And what the manifesto said is that they prefer individuals and interactions over process and tools. What that means, it's that we are not machines. Like we don't have to work all like a very well-tuned machine. We recognize that people developing software are people, and the people that are going to use this software are people too. And we care about them. We care about their particular way of work, and we appreciate that. We embrace that instead of trying to make people work all the same way. From this also came now a trend that said that software developers are artesanos, like artesanos of the software. Well, there's a lot of controversy about it, but the idea is to instead of trying to make everybody think the same way and code the same way, to embrace that we are different and that we have to pay attention to people. And it's we organize agile methodologies try to organize the teamwork, listening to what people have to say and listening what the clients or product owner, the person that represents the people that are going to use the software, trying to listen to what they have to say or what they think. Also, working software over comprehensive documentation. If you are a software developer, you understand what I mean. It's more important than to do a lot of documentation that nobody is going to read. It's more important to do software that works. Customer collaboration or negotiation. The customer is not your enemy. Okay? When you use traditional methodologies, sometimes you end up hating your customer or the final user or whatever that hired you to build the software. You end up hating them. And why? Because they change things all the time. And we hate the customer changing things. Well, with a startup, it's not, your customer is not going to go to you and tell you to change things. You have to go to the customer and ask them, hey, you want us to change things? You have to be paying attention to your final customers, even if you are business to business or you are business to client. It's different the way you approach to them and try to learn from them, but the key is that you have your idea of what they need, but reality is very different. So you have to be open to learn every step of the way what they want and what they need and adjust to them, adjust to reality. Don't complain because they don't understand your software, they don't understand your platform, or they don't want to pay for your product in the way that you have developed. Complaining is not going to give you money. So if you are working in a normal company where you can negotiate the terms, and then when the client said, oh, I want to change this, I want to change that, you say, we have this sign, so fuck you? No, that's bad. I think you shouldn't do that. But if you have a contract, you can do it. With a startup, you cannot do that because people are just a click away from your competition, so you are going to lose. Okay? So you have this idea in your mind of what your product is going to be, but it doesn't. It matters what you think it's going to be, but you have to figure it out how to make that a reality, and even more important, how to make that a reality that somebody is willing to pay for it. Okay? But if you have a lot of money and you want to develop a very expensive hobby, it's okay. Like I have tons of those, and I'm planning to do them because it's fun and because I want to do them. But if you really plan on living of that, doing that as a business, then clients should be a priority for you. To avoid waste. So back to the avoiding waste. What I want you to do this week, your homework, it's going to be go for the customers. Okay? The first thing you need to understand is, like Kaylin said, the pain. You have to find somebody that really cares about what you are trying to develop. So don't think first the product and then the customer. Try to find at least the lean startup way. It's to first think about your pain and then think about the solution. Because we have a lot of people that say like, oh, I developed this cool thing and now I want somebody to use it. Well, when you have a hammer, everything are nails. But it doesn't work that way. You have to find some problem to solve that somebody cares so much about it that want to pay for that. So the lean startup methodology, what it says is that you first find the problem, okay? And to validate the problem, you have to do, and you have to find the customers, okay? So, what's the problem and who has this problem? In the case, for example, of Chevrolet, you will have people that are at home and don't have a lot of time but don't have a lot of money, and then you have people that don't have time but have money and want very healthy meals. Okay, so probably your client is the people that are going to pay, but I would put both of them in the business model canvas. So you can understand both of them because you have to find both of them and you need them to care enough so they sign up in your platform. Okay? So you have to put the deposits there and put the clients and the facilitator. Like they could be in this one it's not, but there in the other business model canvas you have the people that cook the meals could be in another slot in another box that it's the key partners. Okay? It depends. So how do you validate this? You have to do interviews. Okay? Most people do interviews wrong. And it doesn't matter how many times I say this, but people get it wrong. What people say is like, I'm going to do this cool thing. It's cool, right? You're going to pay for it, right? And people say, yes, 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 because you are so nice and I don't want to tell you to your face that I don't care about what you have to sell. No, that's not the way. Especially not in the problem interviews, okay? Separate problem interviews, solution interviews. First you have to do problem interviews. In the problem interviews you don't mention your solution, okay? Why? Because if you mention your solution then you are not going to learn what you want to learn. There's a lot of techniques to do problem interviews. What you don't have to do is this, okay? You don't put forms online and try people to fill in the form. Don't do that. Why? Because if you do that, then most people are going to answer what you expect them to answer, and you are not going to learn what you want to learn. This is fine when you want to validate how big is your market or some specific things once you already know your customers. But when you want to validate who your customers are, it doesn't work like that. What you have to do is to sit with people and listen to them. Tell them, hey, I want to know everything about your problems. Okay? So you decide, you guess who you think your customers are as accurate as you can. You could have different kind of customers. And you sit with them and tell them, okay, I want to know everything about you. And I want to know how you work every day and what's the things you really care about. And please tell me all these problems you're telling me, which ones are the most important for you. Don't tell them, oh, I think you have this problem. You have this problem, right? It's very important. No, listen to them, okay? And then tell them, okay, so this problem you have, if you had a magic wand that could solve it in the best way possible, what that magic wand will do. That way, you're going to learn a lot of them. Okay? So that's the interviews. We are going to send you some chapters about doing good interviews. I want you to read one of them. I will send it. It's España Lean Startup. Some friends of us wrote a very, very cool book, and they are Spanish and they are awesome. And it's for free, so you can download that. And we are going to send you the chapter about interviews. But also in the Libro Gordo de PTT, you have several pages about doing good interviews. That's useful too. So you can find how to do good interviews there. Please read one of those before going to asking people. Okay. And then, after we have the problem figured out, we want to validate our solution. Okay? Don't do problems interviews and solution interviews the same day. Why is that? Because then you have already figured out the questions before listening to people's problems. That's not what you want to do. Listen first, digest information, and then try to validate your solution. The idea will be that you decide what your solution is after you have think about what people really want. That's not going to be your case because most of you have already figured out more or less what you want to do, but that's not the best way to do it. So it's a good thing if you try to do this before you start coding, because then you are more willing to change and pivot. When it's just an idea in your mind and you don't have something done, it's easier for you to pivot. Cavatio is not going to do that, of course, because they already have a lot of work done.
There are not openly things.
But maybe it will help you to prioritize what you want to do in the future. So the solution will be here. The solution under unique value proposition. It's the unique value proposition should be part of the solution, but it's also part of your company, of what you do. Like try in this, you will learn some things about this in the problem interview. Because if, for example, you empathize with what they really care, then you could put that in the message of your startup, in the community you want to develop. Try to think what your customers really care about. Depends on who your customers are. You will find which is most important for them. So it doesn't make sense if you do a very strong community for people that don't care about that. It's your job to try to empathize with them and connect with them. Also, it will help you to develop the brand. And customer product market fit, it's the fit between your customers and the solution you want to sell to them. Okay? So you have to try to find a solution that really solves the problem your customers have. And in the other business model canvas, it's value proposition and customer segments. And like I said before, key partners are people that help you doing that. Like sometimes they are, if you are using shops to sell something, then sometimes the shops are your clients too. You can pivot, and these shops are your clients, or art galleries, or depends on what you do. So that's a good thing that we use posits, because we can change things very easily, and we can shape our business model depending on who is most interested in paying for our services. And my favorite part, MVPs. I love MVPs. And most people don't get what an MVP really is. An MVP is an experiment. So you want to validate some of the things you have here. You think, oh, I think people are going to pay for this. Or, I think my clients are these people. Well, you want to validate that. You want to learn something. It's not the minimum version of your product that gives you money. Okay? Well, you can call that an MVP. A lot of people do that. But that's not the idea behind an MVP. An MVP it's an experiment that you do to validate something that you don't know. So you sit looking at your canvas and think, okay, I know these things for sure, I have validated them, but these things I don't know. I'm going to learn about it. So you can go and do interviews. That's the first thing you have to do. But after that, maybe you have to develop some software to validate if they are really going to use it, or if this really works, of whatever. Do an experiment. What's the most important thing about an experiment? A lot of you are chemical guys, so you know about science, how science works. What's the first thing you have to define when you do an experiment?
Hypothesis.
Exactly. So, what are the results you expect? For everybody, our babies are very beautiful. So, if we don't decide what are a good outcome of the experiment before doing the experiment, then everything is going to be fine, and the people we interview, if they don't say what we expect, then they are not our target customers, and we dismiss everything we learned because it's not what we thought it should be. Okay? So, write down before you do the experiment what you expect, and what do you think it's going to be a good outcome, and what is going to be a bad outcome. Okay? So, in honor of Jimmy, I put an MVP on my own. In this slide, I used to explain the Zappos the Zappos MVP because I think it's perfect. It's very, very good. But you have it on the Lean Startup book, so I'm going to explain one of my own. If I have time. No, I don't have time. Okay. Well, I explained very, very good. So I did an MVP a few time ago. I did it wrong. I learned from my mistakes because what I did is, I want to do this very cool algorithm, so I'm going to build it and then see if I can make money with this. So it was not a really good MVP. But the thing is, I used to have a lot more weight than I have now. And for me, going shopping was a nightmare, and I had to put on a lot of clothes before I find anything that really looks good on me. And I have a friend that was a personal shopper, that is a personal shopper, that she gave me very good advice about how to pick clothes and know who is going to good look on me before putting on. Like most people think, more male people think that we women like to put on clothes. That's not true. We like to put on clothes that looks good on us. We hate to put on clothes that make us look too fat or too thin or whatever. We hate that. So for me it was amazing to know that because I was a guitar back then and now I am a clock. I knew what kind of clothes I have to put on, so I save a lot of time. So I talked to my friend and I asked her, okay, how do you give this advice? How do you do this? And she told me like a few parameters that she used, and I say, oh, I can do software that do this, and it's going to be awesome. So what I did is this. The thing is, to do the whole thing, I would have to do a very complicated algorithm with all the parameters and all the kind of clothes and everything, and I didn't have time to do that. I didn't want to do that. So what I told my friend is, okay, here are 50 dresses from Zara that they have online, and you can buy online. So I made her to classify which kind of figures go good with these dresses. And we do a recommender, so we have people taking their size and then they put on a form and they recommend the dresses and we could buy online. It was very, very cool. And we implement the idea. So it's not about MVP, because it saved me a lot of time. I could really show to people, and I could really have people using my stuff, even if it's not the whole thing. I didn't need the algorithm. I could fake it. Like, it's the best way to validate something, it's to fake it. But after some months, and after learning a lot about startups, I discovered that it was not a real MVP, because I didn't know what I wanted to measure before I did the experiment. So everything was fine. Like people told me, oh, it's very cool, I really love it, and I was very happy about it, and that's it. That's vanity metrics in some way. And you don't do that because you are not learning the real. Okay? But it was fun. It was very fun too. We want you to keep working on your lean startup canvas or your business model canvas every week. We are not going to ask you to upload every week, okay? But the idea is that you keep working on them. This week, what I want you is to do problem interviews. Validate who your customers are, okay? Go and talk to them. If you just do that, I will be happy. Next week, you are going to focus on the solution. You are going to write who the top features for your product are going to be. And if you have time, it would be cool if you go and do solution interviews and talk to your potential customers about what they think about these features. Okay? But the most important thing first is that you validate that who your customers are. Very good. Any doubt? Questions? Yeah.
Regarding the MVP, I understand that for software it's, let's say, quickly because you can build something from scratch in a short time. But for hardware, not using a cookie box or something like that. Because
Yeah.
Okay, I come from hardware, so...
Yeah, by the way, I didn't mention we have amazing people today. We have Javier Montana, but it's one of the best hardware guys I know, and we have Cesar from Space, another awesome hardware guy. And we have Yumi that is going to give the talk later.
So,
and Isra from Hack, very great guy too. Sorry, go on.
So, MVP is an experiment. It's not software or hardware. It doesn't matter whether your product, your final product, you think it's going to be software or hardware. It's an experiment to validate or invalidate something. So maybe you don't need to build anything. Maybe you need to build software to validate hardware. So don't think I need to build something physical or something software. Think what's the hypothesis you want to validate. I think what's the easiest way to validate it. And probably it's neither software or hardware, it's something else.
Javi did a great MVP about his startup, Kalim Box. You can tell us about it in the TVSS.
So,
no, in TVSS because we have still Jimmy and...
It's 1 minute. It wasn't, as you said, everybody said it's a great MVP, but it wasn't. Maybe it was not solving or validating an hypothesis. Basically, the product that we were trying to validate was a system to make telephone calls easier. And we're thinking about our target group was elderly people. Okay? So, but we built the thing, so it was a physical thing. And that's why I think it was not a good MVP, because we didn't need to have built that MVP in the first place. But basically, we should have asked how all people talk on the telephone, who they want to talk to, what are the problems they have. And we thought, oh, they have problems just remembering numbers. But that was not, you don't need an MVP like a physical box that makes calls to validate that. There are easier ways of doing that. So you go to
yeah, sorry, I have to cut you because we don't have much time. But like I said before, MVP it's not a minimum version of your product. You have to decide what you want to learn and design an experiment to learn that. And it doesn't have to. You don't need that to have anything at all to do with your product. Just with what you want to learn. So first decide what you want to learn, and then we can think about